The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, a look at what is being done in our community to bolster the mental health of young people and promote better communication with the adults in their lives. We'll tell you about a program called Ending the Silence. Meet a 17-year-old who has accomplished a goal that many people have set for themselves. He has written and illustrated a book, and it seeks to define aspects of his generation's emotional journey. And find out how Ability Dogs of Arizona is making it possible for those in need to make four-legged friends that can help them in everyday life. Those stories are next on Arizona Spotlight. Discussions about mental health can be especially difficult inside families. Next, we'll hear about a program that's offered in our community by NAMISA, the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Southern Arizona. The program is called Ending the Silence, and it encourages communication as a first step in helping youth and their families find common ground. Joining me now is Rocio Castellanos, the program director, and Jaden De La Rosa, a young woman who shares her personal history in live presentations.
The program began originally in Illinois by a group of parents that wanted, to break down the stigma around mental health and around, mental wellness in the schools, because Ending the Silence is presentations that we do for middle school and high school students. So it originally started in 2007 in Illinois, and then they were doing so great that NAMI National decided that they were going to implement it. And so then in 2013, NAMI National decided to implement this program, and that's when the program started here in Tucson as well.
Well, you brought Jaden here with you today, but about how many people are involved with doing presentations in the schools and reaching out to youth in Tucson?
So right now there is a total of 13 presenters, 3 of which are young adult presenters. And the young adult presenters, their ages range from 18 to about 30, 35 years old.
Jaden, explain what the presentation process for you has been like. What's the message you're trying most to convey when you meet a group of youth in Tucson?
Honestly, I really want to break the stigmas down. Being 21 years old and being passionate in the field of mental health and just understanding, and I think it's really important to me. And the way NAMI presents it to people, I feel like they do it in such a right way, because in the beginning, for 40 minutes, they're giving you a presentation breaking down the stigma. And then that's when the young adult presenters like me, we come in, and then I give my own personal stories. So I have about 10 minutes to give my life story and what it is that I went through in my own mental health struggles, and how I was able to help myself, how I was able to overcome it. We're not here to give people, tell them what to do. It's more of this worked for Jaden, this helps Jaden, and this gets Jaden through every single day. And if you want to try it, and if you think that you're inclined to, it'll help you, then, go ahead and try,
Rocio, when you told me that this program was actually founded by parents in Illinois, I thought that was really interesting, because for parents in our current culture to have the presence of mind to say, I really want to help my child and their peers, but this may be out of my league. Maybe I need to turn to the professionals.
As a parent myself, I find it inspiring that a group of parents, decided they were observing the lack or the need, and they decided to take it upon themselves to do something about it. As parents, we are the first advocate that our children have, whether it's at the schools, whether it's with their doctors. And so when these, group of parents decided to come together, form ideas around a table, how did they inform themselves? By gathering information, by statistics, which, now most of the programs that NAMI National offers are signature programs, meaning that there's research behind these programs that are backing up what was originally the intention of the programs.
Jaden, I think that there's a negative stereotype that's been applied to the generation of which you're a part, that for some reason people want to say that this is a generation that's soft. They use the term snowflakes. They laugh at things like safe spaces and trigger warnings. But aren't these really signs of empathy?
Yes. I also hate that we're perceived as soft. Again, we're just empathetic and we care for others around us, and we were given the responsibility by the older generation to confront the things in our lives, to confront the things in our families that they just weren't able to confront. And so now we have to be the ones to be more empathetic to the people around us. We have had a lot of time by ourselves. So then when we go back around people, now we're more aware of what's happening around us. We've already had time for ourselves. So now we're more aware for the people around us. And there is a difference between empathy and sympathy. Our older generations was giving a lot of sympathy, and now we are giving a lot of empathy, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. It's what we need.
When you think back to when you started doing these presentations, is there something that you heard from your audience that maybe surprised you, a need that you didn't anticipate that exists within our community that you think Ending the Silence and NAMI should be working towards filling that need? Does anything come to mind?
The first thing that came to mind is more public healthcare access. I also advocate at the Arizona State Senate House in Phoenix, Arizona, for more public healthcare access, specifically in mental health. Me, myself, who had to be a part of the system and stuff, I don't think they're being run right. We can't be out here advocating for mental health, but there's no therapist. There's no, it's all, I'll give you medication and go on your way, come to therapy once a week and you're good. It doesn't work that way. If you didn't know that Arizona is ranked 49th in the nation for public healthcare access. If we're 49 and my father who lives in Alaska says their public healthcare field in mental health is way worse, what does that say, you know? I think about it all the time because it's like, yeah, I'm here being vulnerable and I'm here sharing these stories, and NAMI goes out and NAMI is doing these presentations for free, and where it's like it's so accessible. But then our state and the people who are supposed to be representing us more and backing us up, they're not.
Rocio, for someone in our audience who's heard this interview, what's the next step they need to take to get in touch with Ending the Silence?
It's super easy. They can contact me directly, or they can contact any of the staff members at NAMI Southern Arizona. And they can come to the office right there on 22nd and right before Wilmot. We have a little casita there with a big sign that says NAMI outside. They can call our phone number, 520-622-5582. We do a lot of education, advocacy, support. So there's a lot of other programs that we offer at NAMI. So that would be the next step.
And we'll have that phone number and links on the spotlight page at azpm.org. Thank you so much for coming to the studio today.
Thank you so very much for having us. This was fun.
Describing the emotional turmoil of being a teenager is a difficult task, one that's made more complex by the many uncertainties that our culture presents. At the last Tucson Festival of Books, I met a young man named Ranjit Nair. At the age of 17, he became a self-published author and illustrator. His book, The Weight of Tomorrow, displays a discipline and a confidence beyond his age, so I asked him to join me to talk about it.
My name is Ranjit Nair. I'm 17 years old. I go to Basis Oro Valley. I've been there since first grade, and now I'm in my junior year. I just ended it, actually.
How long did the book project take you?
Almost like a year ago. I started off with my first poem in May, and I didn't really think much about like a book at that point. So the first poem, I just wrote it just 'cause. And then later in the year, I decided to actually capitalize on this and try to make it into a full, well thought out story.
And what is the message behind The Weight of Tomorrow?
The Weight of Tomorrow, I created it with the purpose of finding something relatable that teenagers can relate to about their emotions especially. Overall, the message of the book is trying to figure out or trying to talk about different emotions that teenagers go through and really just trying to emphasize on those challenges that they have to overcome.
We recently did a project called the Class of 2024, where we looked at what it meant to graduate from high school after having done active shooter drills for their entire educational career, as well as entering high school right when COVID hit, and how that changed people's expectations. I came away from that project with the realization that although people like to throw around words like spoiled or snowflake, it takes a lot of strength to display this kind of emotional intelligence and to stand together, as so many young people have done during these difficult times, to provide support for one another. What is your reaction to that? And do you think it's true that your generation, to a certain extent, suffers from a faulty stereotype of being weak?
Yeah, I think with that project that you were talking about, it's like exactly the same kind of mindset that I had when going into this book. I think especially like since from that time, like I was in 7th grade at that time. And I think that's probably the start of this kind of like transition or like emotional intelligence that I try to stop for. My generation especially, we struggle with like trying to kind of make sense of like our emotions in a way. And I think this kind of goes with all teenagers, but with us especially, with like the kind of challenges that we face, it's really hard to kind of like pinpoint specific things. And within that journey, I think it's important to kind of address the steps necessary to take to kind of understand it. And throughout just writing this book, just kind of like addressing these things for myself, it has helped me kind of get a better understanding.
You know, I would say in my generation, people came to these sort of emotional developmental milestones in different times in their life, a very relaxed pace. But now there's an impetus, there's a need to be able to study and understand your own emotions because of social media, because of the threats of COVID, the active shooting drills that everyone's experiencing in school. And it's almost like the clock is really ticking. You either have to step up and learn how to maneuver or navigate through these emotions, or you're going to suffer a bigger penalty than anyone in my generation did.
Exactly. I think I totally agree with that. I feel like there's definitely like a sense of like exigence that kids these days they have this set of expectations that they have to meet and kind of like understand what is going on like emotionally with them in order to actually progress through life. In this time, it feels like everything is moving so fast and like a lot of different changes are happening like left and right. So like someone my age kind of has a problem and struggles with like having the time to even like just settle for a second before like life moves on.
You make an observation talking about the moodiness of teenagers, that there can be as many as 400 changes in mood in an average teen's day. And I'm sure that's only exacerbated by being exposed to social media.
Exactly. I think social media as a whole has like had a significant impact on like how we kind of perceive and try to either conform to expectations or just try to like meet them as a whole.
One thing we haven't talked about are the illustrations in the book, and they're really nice. They remind me of the kind of mythology books that I used to be drawn to. You know, I opened it right here to this one where it's like there's a certain fantasy creature creation going on there. So how do you describe the process you went through to illustrate emotions and complex ideas in simple iconography?
For the illustrations, funny enough, the first one, the time one, the poem actually first came from the illustration itself. So I drew the drawing and then thought of the poem. And then for the rest of them, a lot of the influences, I wanted to kind of perceive these like different emotions as like this kind of omniscient or like ethereal being. Like, for example, in Luck, you can see like this large figure presenting to this tiny man. And stuff like that, I wanted to kind of like just kind of take what was in my mind in the moment and just kind of try to present it in like illustrated form. And I've been drawing ever since I was a little kid. So it really just comes second nature to me. Just whatever I imagine, I just want to like, it kind of creates a story in itself.
Time was one of the poems that I was going to ask you to read. Would you like to go ahead and do that now?
Of course, yeah. The crack of endless time has just begun, when all the souls can now begin to leave. The end is near, your work here is all done, the work while finished was barely achieved. You see, time went by faster than you thought, Procrastination right there by your side. The toll you pay fills your brain with rot. The effect only comes after the ride. So, my friend, now that time has fully cracked, what is next since your soul is free? You have won against time, your mind intact. At least you think, no way to guarantee. The work was completed, but at what cost? When was the last time you cared for me? Don't know how to control the time. I am lost. Please help me. Please set me free.
In the introduction to the book, it says that even though you yourself are a teenager now, that these poems were not necessarily written with just the teenager in mind. And I would say that definitely is true. Reading them, rarely did I encounter anything that made me question the maturity of the author of these poems, Ranjit. So I think you did a very great job of expressing yourself with these complicated emotions. We'll have you read another one in just a moment, but I want to ask you, for listeners in the audience who might be wondering about your family's immigrant journey, what would you want them most to know about your family, and how do you think it has helped to shape your identity?
My family has been like my biggest supporter, especially like my brother is here right now. And like they help me kind of process these emotions. And I think the people you surround yourself with especially are like a big factor into kind of not having that lost feeling that we were talking about earlier and trying to make sense of the world. So I'm really grateful for them and especially everything they've done for me. Like my extended family especially have been like a great supporter of my book, which I'm really grateful for. So they've all of them that live in India and across, they bought my book and they've been always big supporters. So
have you yourself been to India?
Yes, we go every year. I'm planning actually going next week, so exciting.
My guest was author and illustrator Ranjit Nair. His first book, The Weight of Tomorrow, is available on Amazon, and the book is nonprofit. All proceeds are being donated to support mental health resources in our community. For more than 50 years, a group in Tucson has been helping people live better lives by working with specially trained canine companions. Ability Dogs of Arizona offers classes to train a service or facility dog, either those that are ready for a forever home with someone who is in need, or pets who can be trained right alongside their human partners. Next, Tony Paniagua has an interview with the director of Ability Dogs of Arizona and one of the group's clients, whose dog Ivy was in the studio, bringing smiles to everyone who got to meet her.
Scott Mobley, the Executive Director of Ability Dogs of Arizona, and Eli Rahamin, who is here with Ivy. They are part of a certified team with Ability Dogs of Arizona. Welcome to Arizona Spotlight.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Scott, let's begin with you. Ability Dogs of Arizona used to have a different name, and it's been around for more than 5 decades already, has it not?
It has. We have been around since the 1970s. Which makes us one of the oldest service dog training organizations in the U.S. and the world, actually.
Scott, you mentioned these dogs are not used as guide dogs for the visually impaired or blind. However, there are multiple tasks that they can learn. What are some of the, if there is such a thing, most requested or frequent requests when it comes to the dog?
Yeah, the most common ones are psychiatric assistance is a big one. For a range of psychiatric needs, including PTSD, and we work with quite a large number of veterans. The other ones that are common, seizure response, diabetic alert. They can detect changes in blood sugar and alert a person to that. And they can do that more efficiently, more quickly than a device can. A couple of the other big ones, mobility, getting around and retrieving, picking up objects. And then hearing, people who have lost their hearing or are losing their hearing can really benefit from a dog that can alert them.
And how long can the training last? Because this is the dog and the owner, right?
So we're accredited by Assistance Dogs International. We're one of just 2 programs in the state that are accredited. The standards by ADI say that it has to be a minimum of 6 months. But generally speaking, it's going to be 12 to 18 months from when you start working with your dog to certification.
Eli Rahamin, if it's okay with you, if you can share a little bit about your condition or conditions and why a dog was necessary in your life, or at least helpful in your life?
When I started college, I struggled a lot to have the transition from a lot of my parent support to living by myself. My first semester was fall 2020, so it was all during COVID. It was a very weird time for everyone, obviously. But over the next couple of years, I realized that I still really struggled to do a lot of things independently. My main disability is ADHD, and a lot of people don't really think of ADHD as a disability. People think of it as, oh, you just get distracted really easily. But it's more of, I graduated with neuroscience. I'm going to go into a little bit of that. But essentially, it's part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex that has to do with executive functions. So that's attention, but also time management, planning, motivation, organization. A lot of different things are affected, and everyone experiences it differently. But for me, I would really struggle to get started with tasks, to get started in just getting started with the day. The biggest thing was I just wouldn't go to class. I would just not go to work. I would just not be able to get out of bed because I would like be yelling at myself inside my head, okay, I have to do this. And then I just couldn't get myself to do it unless like my mom would literally call me almost every day. And that's not sustainable to live as an adult by myself, you know. I had a friend with a service dog and saw someone online that had a service dog for ADHD. So I started looking into that more about the potential tasks that a dog could help with and if it would be the right option for me. So I looked at a few different organizations in Tucson. Ability Dogs was one that seemed to be fairly close to where I lived. They responded pretty quickly, and even though my living situation didn't work correctly for a dog at that point in time, they worked with me to get the process started. So then when my living situation did work, I could have a dog and we could get the process going. The biggest, like most important task that I needed was just to have her get me out of bed every day. They did a home visit just for an afternoon and then a weekend and then a week or two, just to make sure that she was the right fit for me. And even just the first day I had her, she got me out of bed. And now if I try to ignore her, she will walk back and forth across my chest until I get out of bed. Like she will make sure I'm up, which has been so helpful. And that was the main thing. But there have also been other smaller things that have been able to improve my life as well. So providing like mobility support, so she'll brace so she can help me get out of a chair, pick up objects for me. Those are the two main things that can help me with, especially when I'm having more physical health.
Scott, so how does the program normally work?
Yeah, the way that Eli found out about us and approached us and became part of the program was pretty standard. It's how we operate. We can have a few dozen teams that we're working with that are working toward certification at any time. And we also work with teams that are already certified. They can come back once a month for a group lesson, and a lot of them do, just to fine-tune those tasks that their dogs are doing and even to learn new tasks. So we have it's a bigger community than just those dogs that are working towards certification.
Do you provide a dog? Does somebody come in with their puppy, their little stray dog? How does this work?
Well, we're an owner-trained organization, which means that unlike most service dog organizations, people train their own dog under the supervision of our instructors. So people can bring their own dogs, and they often do bring their dog in to be assessed. And it has to pass assessment because we want to make sure that those dogs are set up to succeed. And not all dogs do. But if you go into one of our group classes, you'll see a wide range of dogs. It's a pretty fun thing to see. And we also have a matching program where we match people with dogs, which is what Eli benefited from. Some of those dogs come from a cooperative that we're part of in North America, and we get dogs that are donated to us. And then we also have a few reputable breeders here in Arizona that are generous enough to donate dogs as well.
And I would imagine it all depends on what is needed from the dog, because some would probably have to be bigger than others or have different skills. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And it's really good sometimes to have a dog that can perform a wide variety of tasks. Eli was really benefited from this because his dog is big enough to do retrieving and picking up objects and doing bracing. Sometimes the things that he needed a smaller dog could do and could do well. But in his case, he actually ended up needing more than that. So it was really beneficial to have a larger dog. But we have small dogs in our program. We have had big Dobermans in our program. It's a real wide range.
Eli, how important has Ivy now become in your life?
I did not expect her to make as big of a difference as she did. I really didn't think I was going to be able to live as independently as I do. I didn't think I'd ever really be able to live alone. And she has improved my life more than I ever would have expected. I'm able to actually live independently now that I wouldn't have been able to previously. I really enjoyed the training process a lot, so it wasn't a huge drag or anything, but I've seen her go through so much progress because people don't believe how young she is for being a lab especially, but she's a great dog. I got very, very lucky with her.
Eli Rahaming, along with Ivy, a yellow lab. Scott Mobley, the Executive Director of Ability Dogs of Arizona. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Tony.
Ability Dogs of Arizona is a nonprofit organization that relies on donations, volunteers, and other forms of assistance. There's a link on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. The show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. Production assistance by Zoe Giuliano. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.